Good evening, everybody.
Kavod Harav, how are you?
Baruch Hashem, thank you.
Good evening, Rabbi.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, so we finished that chapter. We're going to the next one. So it says the Tur here, Veitol yadav veikacha ke'arash. You wash your hands after you drink the second cup, and then you take the matzot. הקערה שהמצות בתוכה, כסדר שהניחו השלמה, למעלה פרוסה תחתיה ויברך על השלמה. So what happens is that you take the matzah and you bless on it, and the top one, which is complete, right? That's what you bless on, because you don't want to bless on the broken one, even though it's there in the same plate, but you should be blessing on the complete ones. So then what you do is, ויבצע ולא יאכל עד שיברך על הפרוסה. על אכילת מצה. So what you do is, you bless hamotzi, he says, on the complete one, and then you bless al achilat matzah, the second blessing, you bless on the broken one. ויאכל משניהם ביחד כזית מכל אחד. So then what you do is you eat a kazait from each one. ואם אינו יכול לאכול כשני גזיתים ביחד, יאכל של המוציא תחילה, ואחר כך של אכילת מצה. So it says if you can't do it all together in one shot, let him first eat the complete one, and then from the broken one. One by one. מפני שיש מי שאומר, because there is one that says, שמברך על הפרוסה המוציא. The opposite way, right? You bless המוציא on the broken one, ועל השלמה, and on the complete one, על אכילת מצה. לכך הרוצה לצאת ידי שניהם, so therefore, if you want to fulfill, right, the opinion of both of them, יאחוז שתיהם בידו, what you do is, you hold both of them in your hand, right? ויברך המוציא ועל אכילת מצה מיד זה אחר זה. So then you bless, right, two blessings, one after the other. ואחר כך יבצע משתיהן, and then break from both of them, ביחד, together, ויאכל בהסבה, and you have to eat when you're reclining. ואם לא הסב, לא יצא. he didn't recline, he didn't fulfill his obligation. וצריך לאכול פעם אחרת בסיבה. So we'd have to eat again one more time, this time reclining. Okay, good. So let's see the Bet Yosef. Good. So it says the Bet Yosef, what's the source for this? Um, second, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's this one. Right. So now we said, right, you have to wash your hands. So it says the Bet Yosef, even though you already washed your hands one time when you ate the karpas, so we say, right, in this chapter in the Talmud, Kuftet Vav Amud Bet, he washes his hands again, and you bless Netilat Yadayim. Because you already got distracted by reading the Haggadah, so that's why you need to wash again. Says the Mordechai, נראה לי שאם נתכוון מנטילה הראשונה לגמור בה כל הסעודתו, so he says, right, that if his intention was, when he did the first washing, to finish the whole meal like that, בלא היסח הדעת, without interruption, אין צריך לחזור וליטול שנייה. You don't have to bless again. You don't have to wash again, I'm sorry. עד כאן, that's what he says. ונראה לי שאין לכוון בכך שלא לבטל תקנת חכמים. So he says, right, that the Bet Yosef, that's not good to do that, that you should have this intention. Why? Because otherwise you're nullifying the words of the rabbis. So what does that mean? The rabbis told you that you should wash again, and you're making some kind of a loophole not to wash, and we don't want that. It's better not to do that. So since the rabbis decreed to wash twice, then why are you changing the program and washing once? It's not proper to do that. That's what he says. ומש כתב רבנו ויקח הקערה שהמצות בתוכה כסדר לשניהם שניחום. So that which the Torah said, that now he takes the matzot, right, to bless on them. אחי אמינא בפרק כיצד מברכים. This was said in ברכות. הכל מודים בפסח שמניח פירוסה לתוך שלמה ובוצע. So he says, right, that everybody agrees in the Talmud there, in the brachot, that when it comes to Passover, what you should do is place the broken one inside the full one, and then break from there. So what does that mean? You place one inside the other. And so he's talking, probably that you have soft matzot, so you can bend it. And this way so you have a pocket, and you put one inside the other. And that what she said, right? That there are different opinions about which one gets which blessing. And therefore, right, if you want to fulfill the obligation of both opinions, what you should do is hold both of them in your hands, and bless hamotzi. And then do achilat matzah. That's what the Torah said. So it says Bet Yosef, what's the source for this? Ken katua rosh, that's what it says in the Rosh. Ve'amordechi perek ereb psachim, right over there. Ve'ka katav Hagot Maimun, also this rabbi. ובשם הסמ"ג, name of the סמ"ג. בזה לשון הרשב"א. רשב"א says בתשובה, in תשובה, נוטל מצה שלמה ומניח שעליה פרוסה. You take the the full the whole matzah, and you place upon it the broken one. ומברך המוציא, right? You bless המוציא, and then על אכילת מצה, על הפרוסה. On the broken one, mishum lechem only, because it's bread of poverty. ואינו צריך 3 מצות. And you don't need 3 מצות, he says. ואף על פי שאמרו מניח פרוסה בתוך שלמה, and even though in the Talmud they said you should put the broken one inside the full one, כל שהקטן בתוך הגדול, בתוך כאלה. When you have the small one, right, inside the big one, it's called inside. So in other words, even though it's not really inside, it's like on top of it, but still it's called inside. בסוף סימן זה כתב רבנו שכן דת ריף. And in the end of this chapter, it says in the Torah that that's also the opinion of the Rif. שדי בשתי מצות, it's enough to have 2 מצות, שהראש חולק וכן נהגו. So, right, that the Rosh has a different opinion, right? He argues with this, and that's the custom. Okay. Good. Then he goes on, Bet Yosef, ומה שכתב רבנו, שמברך על אכילת מצה, וכן מה שכתב לקמן, that which Rabbeinu said, the Torah, you bless al achilat matzah, and then right afterwards he says, Shemvarech al achilat maror. Then you, right, for the maror, you bless al achilat maror. That's the blessing of the maror. Kachi nuschat Rambam. That's the language of the Rambam. Katav Rambam Magid shetamo mipnei shebracha zo motzi atzmo ve'acherim imo. So right, says this rabbi, the reason is because with this blessing, he fulfills his own obligation and also the guests as well. Hashomim oto, that hear his blessing. Aval lefi data arbe min achronim, but it says according to the many of the later authorities, hanusachu lechol matzah, right? The text of the blessing is lechol matzah, not al achilat matzah, but lechol maror, and also lechol maror. V'chen ikar. So he says that's the way it should be done. But right, it says in the end, right? So, but he says the custom is not like that, right? So what does that mean? The custom is to bless al achilat matzah, not lechol matzah, right? That's what we do also. Okay, good. And then we said he should eat while reclining, right? So where is that written? He says, Pashut beperek arbe psachim. It's over there in Psachim Kuf Chet Amud Aleph. Umash katav ve'im lo hesev lo yatsa. So that which he said, right, that if he didn't recline, he didn't fulfill his obligation. V'tzarich le'echol pam acheret, and he has to eat again. Beseba, this time reclining. Chen katav shama rosh. That's what it says in the Rosh. Midyuka de Braita, from the implication of the Braita. Deduction. כתב רבנו, and it says רבנו the Torah, ויברך המוציא ויתאבל באחרוסת. כן כתב רמב"ם. Okay, I think we have to go back to the Torah. There's more to read there. This we didn't see yet. So it says here the Torah, כתב רב עמרם, right? It says this rabbi, ויברך המוציא ויתאבל באחרוסת. He says he should bless המוציא and then dip the matzah in charoset, ויאכל, and eat it. וכך כתב רמב"ם, the Rambam also says this, ואיני יודע טיבול זה בחרוסת, למה? So he says, I don't know why we want to dip this into charoset, right? The bread, the matzah. אין משום מצה שאין בה מלח. If you're telling me the reason is because the matzah doesn't have any salt, but צריך בשש לטבל במלח, and you have to, right, you have to dip it into salt. וכן הוא לשון הירושלמי בתמיש במלחה. So that's what the Yerushalmi says, right? That you should dip it into salt. So in other words, okay, if you want to dip it, you should dip it into salt. Why dip it into charoset? What's the point of that? That's what he's asking. So then he goes on, ועוד הקשה בעל המנהיג לדבריהם שמצה היא זכר לחירות. So he says, this rabbi asks a question. According to that opinion that that says that matzah is a remembrance for the freedom, emancipation, the charoset zecher latit. The charoset, right, is a remembrance of the mud, clay. So then he says, how can you combine one with the other, right? It doesn't make sense. There's like two contradictory, implications there. The old matzah deoraita, the charoset derabanan. This is also another thing, which is that matzah is from the Torah, and the charoset is only rabbinical. The ate charoset derabanan batel matzah deoraita. And what? So you're going to tell me, right, that you dip something which is from the Torah and something which is rabbinical? Okay. Okay, that's it. So let's see the bit Yosef here. So, right, it says about Yosef regarding this. אף על פי שמדברי הרמב"ם נראה דעל כזית, דאכילת מצה כאמר, דמטבל בחרוסת ולא כזית דמוציא. So even though it seems, he says that the Rambam seems to be saying that you have to dip it into charoset, the part which is on the achilat matzah, the blessing of achilat matzah, and not the part which is hamotzi. Lo dak Rabbeinu be'achi. So he says the Rabbeinu, the Tur, was not precise regarding this, right? He wasn't careful, regarding the implication here. מאחר שהוא סובר ששום אחד מהם אינו מטבל בחרוסת, because he holds that neither one of them you should put into charoset. והרב"ד דחה דברי הרמב"ם, says the Rabbah pushed out the Rambam, כתב הרב המגיד, so says the Rav Magid, שכן דעת הרבה מן האחרונים וכן נהגו. So that's the custom, right? So what does that mean? We don't dip the matzah into charoset, right? That's not what we do. So what do? We dip it into salt, right? Just like when you have bread, same thing, right? Okay. And all right afterwards, you take some kazait of maror, and let's see in the tour inside there. Right. So what you do is you dip the maror in the charoset. So he says, but don't leave it in there, like too long. Right? Why is that? So it shouldn't nullify the bitterness of the charoset. So because of this reason, says Rabbeinu Yonah, that you have to shake off, because of this reason, shake off the charoset from the maror, that it shouldn't nullify its taste. And you bless alachilat maror on that. And you eat it without reclining, right? So the maror, we don't recline when we eat. So far we have two things, right, that we don't recline. We don't recline when we eat the karpas. We don't recline when we eat the maror. But we do recline, when we drink the wine and we eat the matzah. Okay. Right? You don't bless Bar Pi Adama on the maror. Because it was already, said Bar Pi Adama, right, when we did the karpas. שברך על הירקות, בטיבור ראשון. ולכך אומר שאין לברך אחר טיבור ראשון בונה נפשות רבות, right? That's why we don't bless the final blessing on the karpas, right? Because we're still continuing on that theme. ורי אומר צריך לברך אחריו בונה נפשות רבות. But the Ri says you have to bless on that, the final blessing. ומה שאינו צריך לברך על המרור, and that which we don't have to bless on the maror, he says, regarding the בר פי אדמה, לפי שחשוב כדברים הבאים מחמת הסעודה. He says that the reason is because it's part of the meal. That's why we don't bless. בתוך הסעודה, ואדוני אבי הראש ז"ל הסכים לדברי הרשב"ם. So he says the Rosh agrees with the Rashbam. Okay. Meaning what that we shouldn't bless, right? That's what the Rashbam says. Then mimarchin al charoset afa pi shei mitzvah defish. It says we don't bless on the charoset even though it's a mitzvah. There's no blessing for the charoset. Defish who tafil maror. Why is that? Because it's subsidiary to the maror. It's not its own thing, you know. Ve'im en lo yirakot the tibul rishon. If he doesn't have any vegetables for the first eating, ela maror, just he has maror. Yivarech alav betibul rishon. So what you do is you bless on the maror, right? Instead of the karpas when you start. Maror, and then you bless right alachilat maror as well. Betibul hasheni itbelenu becharoset, and then when you eat it the second time, you dip it into charoset. Ve'ochlenu belo bracha, and you're going to eat without a blessing. V'tov lachazor achar shar yerakot, ve'achar kach notel matzah shlishit. So he says. So therefore, right? He says it's better to use something else. In other words, you shouldn't use the romaine lettuce for both the karpas and the maror. Not a good idea, right? It's better to, unless you have no choice. So better to do what? To use, as we said, right, celery for the karpas, and then use the romaine lettuce for the maror. Okay. So then he says, "Notel matzah shlishit ubatzia mimena v'korcha im maror ve'ochel biyachad." So he says, then you take from the third matzah, the bottom one, right, and you eat your sandwich, right? You make a sandwich there. What does that mean? You wrap the matzah around the maror, make a sandwich, right? Zecher lemikadash keilel shaya boreh korech bepesach matzah, right? So he says that's how Hillel used to do it. That was his opinion, you know. So we fulfill that opinion too. In the temple, you know, that's how they did it. So therefore, first we have the matzah, then we have the maror, and then we eat a sandwich. Right? Those are the three eatings that we do for the mitzvah. So he says, Umaror ve'ochel v'ketav Abi Ha'ezri. So says this rabbi, she'en la tov lo becharoset, right? So he says, don't dip this into the charoset. The bet tibulin matzino bezman hazeh deregilin leme'abad kehilel. So he says because there are two types of dips that we do according to Hillel. Gimel lo matzino says we don't have three though. But Rabbi Shmaya b'shem Rabbi Rashi, these rabbis they said katav shetzarich letov lo becharoset. He says you should dip into the charoset. So what does that mean? The sandwich, right? You should dip it. But katav Adonai Aviros. That's what the Rosh says also. But tov lo becharoset sheken hi haya Hillel oseh. That's how Hillel used to do it. That's why. Ochel pesach matzah maror. He would eat the pesach, right, in the matzah and the maror. But tovel becharoset and dip into charoset. Katav achi Rabbeinu Yechiel. So he says, my brother, right? This guy was his brother, right? So the Rosh was his father, and Rabbeinu Yechiel was his brother. It's all in the family. So Mesapik Ali. So it says, I have a doubt. He says, B'kricha ibaya seba. So he says, right? I'm not really sure if the sandwich requires reclining or not. Kivan de maror lo baya seba. Why is that? Because the maror doesn't require it. Ubala manhig katav de baya seba. So this rabbi says that you do have to recline for that. Ba'avur hamatzah sheba, because of the matzah which is in there. Zecher lechirut, which is a remembrance for the the emancipation. Katav od harotzeh lekayim mitzvat mina muvchar. So he says, right, that if you want to do the best way to do the mitzvah, lo yasiach ad sheyaseh kricha ke'ilel. Right, don't speak, you know, at all until you finish the sandwich, like the opinion of Hillel. Because this way, right, the blessing you made on the matzah and the maror is also going to cover the sandwich as well. So what does that mean? You really shouldn't talk at this point, you know? Once you make the hamotzi and start eating the matzah, don't talk over there. Just keep on chewing and eating, right? Chew, eat, right? Eat the matzah, then eat the maror, and eat the sandwich. Once you finish a sandwich, then you can talk, right? You can do what you want, whatever, right? Whatever makes you happy. Because you did all the mitzvot. Okay. So it says, Mishum delo itmar ki ilchita lo kemor velo kemor. It says because we don't know really what the halacha is, right? In other words, there's the opinion that we do eat the matzah by itself and the maror by itself, and there's the opinion of Hillel that we eat it together, as a sandwich. So in order to cover all the opinions, we want to do all these things, and we want to do it without talking. So this way, the blessing should cover all these things, all these possibilities. דלא יטמע הלכתה לא כמו מלומר, אבדינן כחומרה ותתרוויו. הכי נמי לעניין ברכה, so that's why we're stringent, to do all these opinions, because we're not really sure what the halacha is. לעניין ברכה צריכים למעבד שיעלה לשניהם, ושיחת חולין צריך להיזהר, אבל תול ברוך הוא לא הווה בסק. But he says, so what aren't you allowed to talk? Like, mundane conversation, right? But you're allowed to talk about the mitzvah. Something which has to do with the mitzvah that you're doing. That's okay. Because it's a part of the ritual, it's all together. Okay. Good. Let's see the Bet Yosef. So it says the Bet Yosef, right? Where is the source for the maror? Pashut the Mishnah Pek Kol Sha'ar, right? It's in the Mishnah over there in Lamed Amud Aleph. The Bainan Sheochal Kazait, right? We have to eat a Kazait of maror. So how much is Kazait, right? We already mentioned a couple of times. Kazait is half an egg, so it's not really that much. Some, there's also opinion that says that our eggs, are like very small compared to their eggs, So, because of that, some people eat like more. They eat like, But the truth is that you don't need to, because there is a Khatam Sofer. The Khatam Sofer says that we go according to the measures of our times. So what does that mean? We should go according to the egg that we have in our generation. You know what I mean? That's what we have. Even though it's smaller than the egg of the Talmud, whatever, doesn't matter. That's what we have. But nowadays, like, a lot of people are accustomed to measure these things in weight, and not volume, right? Because really, half an egg is a volume. It's not really a weight. So but now they translate it into weight. According to the Rambam, right? So therefore, they say, that the kazait is like 27 grams. That means that the egg is 54 grams, right? Something like that. 50 grams, right? Round it off. 52, 50, whatever. That's basically what we have. According to weight, right? So whatever is easier for you to do, if you can do it in weight, you can do it in weight. If you want to do it, by volume, you can do it with volume, whatever it is, right? No problem. Either way is good. But the more authentic method is the volume, because that's the way the sages made the decree. So the truth is, when you go by weight, it comes out to be a larger size. In general, that's the way it is. So when you do it by weight, you're eating more than you're required. So it's like you have like a right, what do you call it? You have some slack there, right? You have your buffer zone there because you're eating more. Okay, so that's the story there. By the way, there's also another opinion, which is the Rif and the Rambam. They hold that kazait is not one half an egg, They hold it's 1/3. So therefore it's even smaller. But we tend to be like stringent with this, and go like 1/2 an egg because that's the more stringent opinion, according to Tosfot. So the truth is, if you did like the Rif and the Rambam, you're good. But just to be on the safe side, we do like the Tosfot, eat a half egg, whatever, and this way, right? It's not really much of a difference anyway, right? It's a very minuscule difference. According to weight, right, 1/3 of an egg is like 19 grams, 18 grams, whatever, right? So it's not really much. Okay, so that which we said, right, that you should put into charoset beperek arbe psachim, right? It's over there in Kuftet Vav Amud Aleph in the Gemara. Amra Papa Shema Mina ay chasa tzarich leshku'eh de'eh salka datech lo tzarich leshku'a netilat yadayim lama miu hatam beGemara dachinan le. So right, it brings a Talmud over here that says that you have to dip the maror into something, right? We said we dip it into charoset. And then we have another opinion, right, which argues on this. The dilmad leolam emalach lo tzarich lishkueh, bekafam maricha mait ela lama li netilat yadayim dilma mishakeo le. Right. So, right. How do we know that you have to dip it? He says because we have to, we wash our hands. ואם כן, לא קיים עליהם כרבי פאפא, רב פאפא, ולכן ריף ורמב"ם הראש השמיטו, אבל הרוקח הביאו, ולכן כתבו רבנו. So, right, so we have here a couple opinions here about this. Regarding, what we dip it into. Let me just get this straight here. מה שכתב ולא ישהנו בתוכו שלא יתבטל טעם מרירותו, and that what he said, right, that you shouldn't leave it in there, in the charoset too long, because it will nullify the bitterness. Memra de Papa bepek arbe psachim. It says it's from this same place there in the Gemara, Rav Papa. And that what she said, right, that we should eat it without reclining, the maror. Right, so he says Sham maror en tzarich heseba. It says, right, that maror does not require reclining. Rashi mipnei shehu zecher le'avdut. Why is that? Because it's really a remembrance of the slavery, So then why would you recline, right? It's a contradiction. But says Bet Yosef, right, if you want to eat it reclining, you could. Okay, interesting. But really the custom is not to, and don't bless Borei Pri Akdama on the maror. Ken katvu Tosfot. That's what's in Tosfot, Varosh, Mordechai, all these rabbis. They all say not to bless Borei Pri Adama. Perek Arbe Psachim, וכך הם דברי רשב"ם, also רשב"ם. וראי גם כן שם בשלו כדברי רשב"א, שכתב בתשובה, but not like Rashba, because Rashba says, right, that what? שצריך לברך עליו בורא פרי אדמה, that you have to bless בורא פרי אדמה on the maror, right? But our custom is not to. So we don't bless, right? Bor Pri Adama. So what do we bless? Al achilat maror, right? That's what we bless. Why is that? As we said, right, in the tour, the reason why we don't bless is because we already blessed it on the karpas, so there's no reason to do it twice. So that's why, when you eat the karpas, you should have it in mind to also fulfill the obligation of the maror, that blessing. ואין מברכים על החרוסת אף על פי שהוא מצווה. Right? And as we said, we don't bless on the charoset. There's no blessing for charoset. Hatam lefi shehu tafil maror. As we said, right? What's the reason why? Because it's really subsidiary to the maror, right? And that's why we don't bless on it. Subsidiaries don't get their own blessing, right? That's the rule. That's by the way, a general rule in all laws of blessings. Only the main foods get blessings, the subsidiaries don't. That's why, like when you're eating when you're eating like some kind of a meal or whatever, you don't bless like, on the, let's say, the pickles, and right, or the olives and things like this, when you're eating a meal. Why is that? Because it's subsidiary to them to the meal. That's the way you don't bless on it. You don't, right? When you eat French fries, you don't bless on the ketchup, right? The separate blessing. You don't do that. Because it's subsidiary to the French fries. There's many concepts like that in halacha, right? Same thing. Let's say if you're eating, right, you're eating some, schnitzel, right, with rice, right? So the truth is that in a case like that, the rule is you bless on the rice and not on the schnitzel. So the rice is considered to be the main food there. Why is that? Because it satiates, right? That's why. Okay. So let's see the Shulchan Aruch. So as we said, right, it says in Shulchan Aruch, "Yitol yadav ve'varech al netilat yadayim." First thing you do, right, when you start your meal, you wash your hands, you bless netilat yadayim. Ve'ikach hamatzot keseder shnehem shenicham, right? And now you pick up the matzot, the way you place them, right, on the platter or whatever. Aprusa ben shtei shlemot. So how is that? The broken piece will be in between the complete pieces, right? You pick it up just like that. And you hold them in your hand. So you bless two blessings, right? Hamotzi, and then alachilat matzah. You break first the top one, right? And you and then and then from the middle one as well, the broken one. Mishtehen biyachad, right? Together. He says they break both them together. So what do you do? What do you dip it into? Into salt, right? Not into charoset, right? As we said in the Beit Yosef in the tour, you don't dip it into the charoset. So says the Rama here, Haga ve'en haminhag letpila b'layla rishona. So the Rama says, right, that the first night, he says the custom is that we don't dip it into the salt. The pat naki en tzarich melach. So he says, why is that? Because clean bread doesn't require salt, right? So what does that mean, clean bread? That means that it's not, it's not mixed with, bran and all kinds of things like that, right? It's not pumpernickel, right? So therefore, it doesn't require, right? Doesn't require salt. But the truth is, according to Kabbalah, you should dip it into salt anyway. So the custom is to dip it into salt, but it could be the Ashkenazim don't do it the first night, according to the Rama. Okay, interesting. So then it goes on. So it says Shulchan Aruch, right? You eat both them, the broken and the top one, together, right? Kazait from each one. So how much does that turn out to be? 2 kazait, right? That's like 1 egg, so, right? So the volume of 1 egg, right? Or as we said, right, you could, or 50 grams, if you're going by weight, right? Usually the weight comes out to be larger size. As we said, right, the more authentic one is the volume, but custom, sometimes in many places is to go by weight nowadays, because of the convenience of it or whatever. Okay, so anyway, right? Depends on the kind of food you're eating. I'll give you an example. For instance, if you're eating, bread, so like with your eyes, you can pretty much gauge how much is the size of one egg. Like in terms of the volume, you can gauge that with your eyes. But if you're eating, let's say, a bag of chips, right? So snack, right? So there, it's really hard to gauge how much of those chips, right, is the size of a kazait or whatever, because they're not, normal shaped stuff. They're like, they have all these awkward shapes. So it's really hard to gauge it. So therefore, right, in a case like that, it may be preferable to go by weight. Like, you look at the bag, right, and you see how many grams are in there. So if you have 27 grams in that bag, that's kazait, so you make a final blessing on that if you ate it, right, promptly, whatever, right, within a few minutes, right, whatever it is. So that's the story. Let's go on. So he says, kazait maror. Then after you ate, right, the matzah, you take a kazait of the maror, right, and you dip all of it into charoset, right? So he stresses here, right, you should dip all of it, he says. Interesting, right? Not just a tip. Okay, well, all right, there you go. Not just a tip. ולא ישנו בתוכו שלא יבטל טעם מרירותו. But it says don't leave it in there too long, because it's gonna nullify the bitterness of it. ומטעם זה צריך לנער החרוסת. It says because of this, right, we should try to shake off the excess charoset which is on the maror before we eat it, so it shouldn't nullify the taste of the maror. ויברך על אכילת מרור ויאכלנו בלא הסבה. So as we said, right, the maror we don't eat we don't eat it reclining. We don't have to, we don't recline on it. ואחר כך נוטל מצה שלישית, and then right after that you take the third matzah, which is the bottom one, ומוציא ממנה בקורך עם המרור, right? So then you make a sandwich, right? So what does that mean? You wrap it around your romaine lettuce, right? And you eat that. You also dip that in charoset as well. ויש אומרים, דאין לטוב לו, so the Rama says, right, some say you should not dip that. וכן הוא במנהגים, וכן ראיתי נוהגים. So says the Rama, that's a custom that I saw, he says, right, that we don't dip it. So interesting, right? It could be that the Ashkenazim, they don't do this, they don't dip it into charoset, but we Sfardim, we do. If you look in your Haggadah, right, you'll see over there what to do. Hopefully your Haggadah is, right, you have a good one. Gives you good instructions there. ואומר, זכר למקדש כהלל. And before we eat that, right, what do we say? That this is like the opinion of Hillel, which was in the temple. It's a remembrance of that opinion. ואוכלן ביחד בסבה. And you eat that, right, also reclining. So the sandwich is also eaten reclining. Right, so in other words, the matzah you eat reclining, then the maror is not reclining, and then the sandwich is reclining. Good. Okay, so then it says, וכשבירך על אכילת מצה, לא יוסיח בדבר שאינו מעניין הסעודה, עד שיאכל כריכה זו. So he reminds you again, right, the same thing that we saw in the Beit Yosef, that you shouldn't be talking at this time, right? In other words, until you finish all this eating, from the matzah to the maror to the sandwich, don't talk, because the blessing should, take effect on all these things, since, it's all one big mitzvah, because, we're just doing several opinions about how to do it. There's two different opinions there. So therefore, don't talk, right? כדי שתעלה ברכת אכילת מצה או ברכת אכילת מרור גם לכריכתו. In order that, right, this should cover the the matzah and the maror and the sandwich, right? Everything, as we said. Okay, very good. So, yeah, so we don't have much time left. So what I'm gonna do is just now go through with you guys, just the basic things you need to know because we're not gonna have time to finish everything. It seems, right? Whatever. So just to fill you in, so we're talked here now. After this, right? What you do is you have your meal. You have your seudah, and you finish your meal. And once you're done with your meal, you now are going to eat afikoman. What's the afikoman? This is also matzah, right? Shmura matzah that you saved under your tablecloth, right? That we said, right? Remember we saved that one. We hid it there. So now you take it out and you have some, By the way, if you don't have enough there for everybody, you can add more from a different place, The point is, right, that everybody should have enough, to eat, right? So I don't care where it comes from, just make sure you eat. So the afikoman, the right should be eaten last. You shouldn't eat anything after that. That should be the last thing you eat, So if you want to have dessert, have it before the afikoman, right? Because after the afikoman, you shouldn't eat nothing. So what happens is, right, you have the afikoman, you have to recline for that as well. And then you eat, so you say Birkat Hamazon, right? You bless for the meal. And then you have the third cup, right, after that, of wine. After the third cup of wine, we say the Hallel, right? And then after the Hallel, we have the fourth cup. And pretty much we're done, with the Haggadah. That's pretty much the end of the Haggadah. As we said, right, you should try to finish all this before midnight, right? Which is about here, as I said, in my area, it's like 10 minutes to 1 o'clock, whatever. Try to finish before that. In your area, maybe a little bit different, whatever it is, right? Check in your local calendar to see when is midnight. So that's the way it is. You try to finish everything before. And then once you finish your fourth cup, you make the after blessing for the wine, ala gifen. And then after that, right, you're not really allowed to eat more stuff, like, So what you can do is, if you're thirsty, you can have water, right? Or you can have some tea, things like this, right? Or you can have, some cola, whatever, right? Soft drinks you're allowed to have. But you cannot have like anything else pretty much, You gotta, the last thing you should eat is the afikoman. So that's the end of the Haggadah. Then we have the songs we sing, right? Nirtzah, all kinds of nice songs that we do afterwards, right? It's written in your Haggadah, all those songs. It's not really an obligation to do these songs, but some, a lot of people like it. It's the kids like it, everybody likes it, whatever. It's a big hit. These songs are a big hit, they're like top, the top, right, the top 10 hits, these songs. So, right, lehavdil. So that's the way it is, and we finish like that. And then I just want to remind you, right, also, right, that Sunday night we're going to be checking for chametz. So what does that mean? Once it gets dark, right, about 20 minutes after sunset, you start checking. You make a blessing before, right, before you check, and check every room that chametz could be there. Make sure you check thoroughly, all the places that the chametz could be, and right, you gather everything up, and once you check, you gather everything and put it into one place so you shouldn't lose it. And then what's going to be is that you're going to make a nullification, right? After you check, you're going to nullify the chametz. You're going to see, right, in your machzor, in your sidur, everything is going to be written there, how to do everything. So check there, how to nullify it. So once you're done, you nullify, and then in the morning, right, you have until the end of the fourth hour to eat chametz. After the fourth hour, it's already forbidden to eat. So then you have another hour to destroy it, right? So what you do is, right, try to, gather up all the chametz you have left over after you ate. Make sure you don't lose it, right? Keep it in one place so you don't lose it. And then, right, you can try to burn it. The best way to get rid of it is to burn it. If you couldn't do burning, let's say you don't have whatever place to make a fire, so you could, flush it down the toilet or whatever, just get rid of it and make sure it's gone. Whatever, you know. So, it's even allowed to throw it away, like in the public garbage. Like in other words, once it gets into the public garbage, of the right of the incinerator in your building or whatever, right? Or the right where the garbage truck comes to pick up that's already considered to be not yours anymore. So that also does the job. But the custom is to burn it, if you can do a fire, a little bonfire, and burn the chametz, it's very good. So you gotta do that before the fifth hour, right? And if you're keeping any chametz in your house, you have to sell it, right? Make sure you sell it, either with a rabbi or do it over the internet. There's a couple of sites that do that, internet sites that also do it. If you can't get to a rabbi, right, whatever, you sell it to a goy, right? That's how you do it. And this way, right, you don't have to throw everything away. If you want to keep some things, which are important to you, you want to keep them. So make sure everything is sold. So you want to destroy it before the fifth hour, right? Because otherwise, it's going to be already forbidden to sell it at that point. You can't sell it or it's too late. So yeah, so make sure, right, that after you destroy the chametz, you do nullification again. You nullify it again before the fifth hour, right? So that's you're done, pretty much, right? You nullified it, you destroyed it before the fifth hour, right? Hopefully everything is done. In my area, this is about 11 o'clock in the morning, right? The fourth hour, a little bit before that, and the fifth hour is like 12 o'clock, whatever, something like that, more or less, right? If you want to see the exact time, see in your chart, see in your calendar, right? In your area. So that's the way it goes, right? And then once you reach the fifth hour, that's it, right? Everything should be gone already. And if you're keeping any chametz in your house, because you sold it, just to put it away somewhere, like in the closet or whatever, that people shouldn't, touch it there, shouldn't mess around with it because it doesn't really belong to you. You can't even touch it. You can't really, do anything with it. So just like put it away and, make sure that, everybody knows not to go there. So this way you can mark it or something, right? Put a mark on it, put a sign on it, whatever, something like that, right? Just make sure everybody knows not to touch it. So that's the story. That's how you do it. And then, right, it's like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever. So you can't have chametz anymore, right? We're done. That's it. We're finished. So then you can only eat things which are kosher for Passover, right? As we said, you shouldn't have matzah that day, right? Until the night, until when you eat for the Haggadah. That day we don't eat matzah. So you can have other things, snacks, whatever, as we said, right? We talked about that. Okay, pretty much that's the story, right? So that's what you want to do. You want to check the chametz with a candle, right? You have to have a candle in your hands. If you don't have a candle, you can use like a small flashlight, whatever. And because this way you can check well all the spotlighting, you can check everything, every area, make sure everything is gone, right? You can gather everything up. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll stop here. Okay.
After you have the afikomen, that's supposed to be the last taste on your mouth, right?
Yes.
Can you brush your teeth after?
Good question. Yeah, I think there's no problem with that because you're not eating, we're talking about eating only. So brushing your teeth shouldn't be a problem. I hope you're not eating the toothpaste, God forbid.
No, but it certainly would,
I'm joking, I'm joking.
It would override the taste of the afikomen in your mouth.
Yeah, but it's not really, that's not the issue. The issue is that you shouldn't eat, like what I mean? That's what we're really worried about. Because you can drink water or tea or coffee, you're allowed to have. As we said, right? Soft drinks you're allowed to have. So there are certain things which are allowed, some things which are not allowed, Okay, I guess we'll stop there. Well, if there's no more questions.
No more questions. I just want to remind, just so that, people don't, just be careful if you're searching for chametz with a candle that you tie your hair back.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. You are so right. You are so right. I have to tell you that one time I almost burned my beard doing that. I almost burned my beard off. So you got to be very careful. Okay. Okay, Chazak Baruch Hu, have a great holiday, B'ezras Hashem. So when is the next time we'll get together? So we have Tuesday is Yom Tov, Wednesday is Yom Tov. So Thursday night, maybe we can do a class, that's about it. Next Thursday. One week from now.
We will continue with this topic or no?
Well, I mean, there's no point in discussing the Haggadah anymore, right? So we'll have to talk about something else.
Okay.
Did we
God
finish this topic?
I'm sorry? There's
Did
still
we
more
finish
to do. There's still more to do, but we're not gonna be able to get it.
But can we finish it afterwards?
Yeah, but it won't help you because we're already done.
But it'll help me next year, maybe, no?
Yes, that's true, but you'll forget by next year. So the best is better to review it next year, you know what I mean? Than to do it now. Because whatever you learn now, believe me, by next year it'll be already gone.
But I have my notes.
That's true. But but the truth is, like in terms of halakha, in terms of the logic of it, according to halakha, you're not supposed to talk about things which you already did. Like it's better to talk about something relevant.
Are there
'cause there's a lot of things which are relevant, still. You know what I mean? We have a lot of things to talk about. So believe me, we have no shortage of topics to
Are there is there anything in this section that pertains to Homewood?
Of course, well, I mean, there's it doesn't have to be dafka in this section, whatever. There's plenty of material, believe me. There's no shortage. We can jump around, the computer knows how to jump, don't worry. No
Thank
problem.
you.
God bless.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Kavod.
Thank you so much.
All the best. Have a great holiday.
Thank you, you too.